Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a hard look at a deeply ingrained childhood lie. You know the one? Since we were young, we've been fed this very specific narrative. If you're a good person, you absolutely must blindly save everyone. If someone is falling apart, it's your job to hold them together. If they keep messing up, well, you just need to be more understanding. But honestly, here is the most dangerous truth you will ever learn, and it's exactly what we're unpacking today. Boundless kindness, it can actually destroy you. So, be honest with yourself for a second. How many times have you literally stayed up until 2 a.m., totally putting your own stress aside just to talk someone else through a crisis? How many times have you tried to fix somebody's problems only to wake up the next day feeling completely emotionally exhausted and drained? Look, we do this because we care, but the reality is, the best people out there often lose themselves completely while trying to save everyone else. Okay, let's dive into this because this is where that whole illusion just shatters. We've got the childhood lie on one side, but on the other we have a harsh reality that Niccolo Machiavelli recognized centuries ago. He understood a fundamental truth about human nature that most of us just flat out refuse to accept. And that truth is, not everyone is actually broken, and not everyone comes to you to be fixed. Some people, they just want to consume your resources. They'll eat up your energy, your peace, and your confidence. And if you don't learn to spot the difference, you are eventually going to empty yourself out. To stop this from happening, we need to map out exactly who these consumers are. We're going to identify 4 specific archetypes today: the chaos creator, the bottomless pit, the professional victim, and the history repeater. Finally, we'll wrap up with why distancing yourself is the ultimate form of self-respect. Let's get right into it. Archetype number 1, the chaos creator. Now, at first glance, these folks don't seem toxic at all. Honestly, they just seem like they have terrible luck. But guess what? That bad luck is actually a highly predictable behavioral pattern. With the chaos creator, there is always a brand new crisis. One week, they're totally broke. The next, it's a super messy breakup. And the week after that, a full-on emotional breakdown. You feel bad for them, naturally, so you step in. You give them your time, maybe spot them some cash, and you definitely give them emotional support. But notice their treats. Their decisions are completely impulsive. They ignore every red flag. And most importantly, they never take responsibility. It's always a toxic boss, a crazy ex, or a broken system. It's literally never their fault. And this brilliantly illustrates a really dangerous trap we fall into. We think we're rescuing them, which implies we're helping them grow. But in reality, we're just enabling them. When you constantly shield a chaos creator from the consequences of their own actions, you're actually rewarding their weakness. People don't change until they feel the pain of their mistakes. If you're always jumping in to be their human shield, their chaos is eventually going to bleed over and completely consume your peace. Archetype number 2, the bottomless pits. Now, what's really interesting here is how tricky this person can be. They start out making you feel like an absolute hero, an irreplaceable savior. But this kicks off a sneaky little thing called the dependency trap. Step 1 is extreme gratitude. They're just so thankful. But then it snowballs right into step 2, escalating demands. First, they just needed a quick piece of advice, right? Then they need an hour of your time. Soon, they demand your constant, undivided attention. Before you even realize what's happening, we hit step 3, where your willing help has completely morphed into a forced obligation. And if you dare to pull back, bam, step 4, indirect guilt tripping. Cue the cold replies, the distancing, and the passive-aggressive sighs. And that brings us to a pretty painful realization. To the bottomless pit, you aren't really a human being. You are a resource. Emotionally mature people understand and respect boundaries. But users get downright angry when you set a boundary because they only see you as an endless supply tank for their own needs. Once your kindness becomes their baseline expectation, your value in their eyes essentially drops to 0. Archetype number 3, the professional victim. These guys don't come at you directly. Nope, they use a totally different covert strategy. Their secret weapon? Weaponized sympathy. Look, there are people who genuinely want to change their lives. And then there are professional victims who have made their trauma their entire personality. When someone speaks to you in a constantly broken, defeated tone, it literally shuts down the logical part of your brain. You stop seeing their objective reality and you only see their pain. You end up feeling completely powerless to walk away. Just look at the maddening dynamic we have going on here. When you try to offer real solutions, what do? They hit you with excuses. You suggest a fresh start and they claim, "I'm just mentally broken." You encourage them to take a little bit of responsibility, and suddenly, you're the insensitive one. The pattern is crystal clear, guys. They do not want solutions. They want emotional shelter. They just want a permanent caretaker to carry them through life. And here's a huge warning sign you absolutely need to hear. The second you get exhausted and finally say, look, I just can't do this anymore, you trigger what's called the villain flip. The professional victim will instantly rewrite the entire narrative to make you the bad guy. They'll say, see, everyone abandons me, even you. Why do they do this? Because a professional victim always needs a villain to complete their tragic backstory.
Archetype number 4, the history repeater.
This is the one that really breaks the most loyal people because they just keep hurting you over and over again. Think about the old fable of the wild dog. A wild dog wanders into a man's house. On the first visit, the dog steals some food. The man thinks, he's just hungry, and forgives him. On the second visit, the dog breaks a bunch of things. The man thinks he just lacks love, and forgives him again. But on the third visit, the dog bites the man who gave him shelter. And that's when the realization finally hits. Some beings simply do not understand mercy. They only understand opportunity.
Let's move to and see how this builds when we translate it into actual human behavior. It's a highly predictable, incredibly toxic cycle. They betray you, and then comes the grand performance, the apologies, the tears, the intense guilt. This naturally leads to promises of fake change. But why do they go through all this effort? Because they aren't changing their character, they're just changing their tactics to regain access to your life. And the moment they get comfortable again, they deliver the exact same betrayal. Every single time you save them from the consequences, you're just teaching them that they can hurt you without ever losing you. Which brings us to our final point. Distancing is self-respect. So the crucial point is this. Identifying these 4 types means you have to make a massive mindset shift. You have to go from being a savior to being a fierce protector of your own peace. Because here is the harsh reality. Unlimited forgiveness is actually weakness. I know that sounds brutal, but it's true. When you forgive people without any limits, when your kindness is just this unconditional, endless, all-you-can-eat buffet, you actually destroy your own value in their eyes. Manipulators control you through hope. They give you just enough fake progress to keep you on the hook. At some point, the answer isn't more forgiveness. The answer is distance, complete and total distance. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Will you choose to be everyone's emotional oxygen, or will you save yourself? It is not your job to fix every broken person who crosses your path. It is absolutely not your job to absorb someone else's chaos. Because the terrifying truth is, if you drown trying to save everyone else, there won't be anyone left to save you. Protect your peace, recognize these patterns, and know that sometimes walking away is the bravest, healthiest thing you can possibly do. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.